Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom Roundup review discussion podcast where we cover various genre TV shows and we do a review of them and we give our take on certain things that happened. It's a little bit late this week because unfortunately our usual recording day of Friday I wasn't feeling 100%. So we weren't really in a position to be able to record, so we're doing this today, which is Monday the 24th. So hopefully you're listening to this not long after that, because I've endeavoured to get it up as quickly as possible. So apologies for that, and hopefully normal service will resume as of next or the coming weekend. In this week's podcast, we are going to discuss the usual shows that we have been talking about for the last couple of weeks, which will be Lucifer, Fear the Walking Dead, Good Omens and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, I will just quickly say something at the top of the show. Mentioned in the last podcast about Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones, we made a decision, we had to think about Jessica Jones, about the fact that we haven't covered any of the other Marvel Netflix shows in depth. We haven't done a week-by-week breakdown of each episode. So we've decided, because there are other things on the horizon, we have Stranger Things coming very soon. We have Preacher returning very soon, so we're going to have some other things to add to the rotation anyway. We thought what would be best is for us both to just watch Jessica Jones in its entirety and then do an overview of the entire final season, just our thoughts and just the main plot points and things like that. So that's what we're going to be doing in a couple of podcast time. So apologies if any of you were looking forward to a week by week for that, but it won't be happening. So, that being said, a couple of other things quickly. Don't forget, if you're enjoying what we do here, then please click that thumbs up button and leave us a like. That's really, really appreciated to know that people are enjoying what we do. Don't forget to leave comments because we love to hear from you and interact with you and get your take on various things and get feedback from you on what we're doing. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That would be really, really great. I'm building up towards 150 subscribers now, and it'd be fantastic if I can get there soon. So help me do that. Help grow this Geek-Dom. And my description box will have the timestamps for this episode so that you can jump to any specific points if you choose to. Obviously, we'd like you to listen to the whole podcast. But if you want to listen to specific bits, the timestamps are there. There's also the link to my Twitter, so you can come and chat to me and carry on the conversation. And also to my donation medium, so that you can help us to do more and improve this podcast and the channel in general. There we go. That's all the housekeeping. Let me introduce my host. Hello there, Mum. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
Good, good.
Yes, I'm all good.
So you're all geared up and ready to go for another thrilling podcast recording session?
Indeed.
Awesome.
Notes at the ready.
You were happy with last week's?
Yeah, very good, always good.
Good. Did you enjoy?
Always good to hear my own voice.
Did you like the image that I picked for the thumbnail?
Yeah, that was good. Father's Day, yeah.
I thought it was quite funny. I was like, I need to find, because I did the same obviously on Mother's Day. I did one for that. So I thought, it's Father's Day, I need to find something another geeky thing. And I was like, yep, two stormtroopers fishing. And I thought it was quite funny. So, yeah. We only
always coming up with good ideas, Tom.
Thank you. We only have one comment, really, to just touch on this week, which is a shame because, we've been getting fairly consistent feedback. But, people weren't obviously as active writing things on the podcast this time round, but that thing was from our buddy Skippy, and that was just in reference to the request that Skippy had made on the previous podcast where he asked us to do our best Australian accents, much to everyone's hilarity, I'm sure. And he was quite pleased with them. He said that he would give us our accents an 8 out of 10, so that's not too bad, is it?
No, that's not too bad at all.
So,
let's hope for us, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that was quite good coming from an actual Australian person. Didn't think that we'd done too badly. And he also obviously responded to you directly on your comment that it wasn't, he said that the accents wasn't too bad at all, and believe me, I've heard some doozies, Bernadette. So it's like basically, don't worry, I've heard worse. So
that made me feel a lot better.
Yes, definitely. So that was nice as well. That was nice that he replied to you personally as well. So
yeah, I did appreciate that.
So that was quite cool. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Was that just that comment from him, and that also he made a comment on the Lucifer thing last week about the bare bum cheeks, and hoping that there were two pieces of roast beef placed over somebody's backside during the Austin Powers Lucifer epic crossover moment. So yes. So there we go. So that's the comments. So a bit of a shortened version this week. But if you want us to mention your comments and, give you a shout out and stuff on the podcast, then please, leave your comments down below and we will happily do that.
Definitely.
Right. There we go then. So unless you've got anything further to add, we will get underway.
No, let's get cracking.
Right. Lucifer. So this was called Devil Is As Devil Does, and it was the 7th episode of this 4th season. Go ahead.
Well, basically, this episode is linked to the previous episode where Lucifer had been trying to be good and he then got evil near the end of that, and a guy got he threw a guy over the balcony.
Yeah.
So he thought, well, I'm evil now. So him and Eve decided we're just going to be evil. So it's like I'm there now, and she's like encouraging him. But it looked like that apparently he hadn't killed the guy. He thought the guy was dead, but apparently he wasn't dead.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the thing, obviously, I mentioned it last week, was that I said, and he broke his back. So I was right, because I got that confirmed in this episode, because obviously at the beginning, they went to the hospital to see this Julian guy, and confirmed, yes, he was alive, but he had been crippled. But he didn't want to tell them anything. He was very scared, wasn't he? And he basically said, no, it was all me, and he confessed to everything. And Dan was suspicious. Dan was
he's suspicious of Lucifer, wasn't
he? Yeah, he started sort of sniffing around, saying he believed that this was something to do with Lucifer, that he had some involvement in this. Who do we know, that sometimes goes off the book and does his own thing? Chloe wasn't buying any of it, but Dan, since the whole Charlotte stuff from last season, he's gone back to being anti-Lucifer, because he sort of came around to him for a little while, didn't he? But now he's gone back to being sort of Detective Douche and not really being a fan of Lucifer's at all. So that was an interesting little sort of background plot thread that was going on throughout the episode of him trying to discover whether or not it was anything to do with Lucifer.
The crime scene in this episode, a victim had been shot, then dumped off a bridge.
Yeah.
And he is apparently a drug dealer. That was their main thing. And also saying about Dan, he's been trying to find evidence that Lucifer was involved in what had happened to the other guy.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that was happening is Amen was trying to convince his sister, the one that the other angel had appeared on Earth, about what humans, about humans, to try and deter her from thinking, oh, I need to take the baby away because it's a bad place for the baby to grow up, because it's a Nephilim, it's half angel. So there was a lot about him trying to convince her about that, which did actually end up with a fight, didn't it?
Yeah, so that bit was interesting because, as you said, he was telling her how his perspective on Earth and humans has changed since living amongst us. And she was like, you're the one that taught me all these things, brother. You're the one that taught me. And he said, yeah, but I was wrong. I was looking at it from a higher perspective and looking down on these humans. But now I've lived alongside them. I see things very differently. And you should too. And she wasn't in for any of it. And she said, look, the angelic child, this child would be better off being raised in the Silver City, because it will be away from all these negative influences and it will have its best opportunity, to grow into the sort of wonderful being that it should be. And he was just like, look, at the end of the day, it's my child, you're not taking it, and if I have to fight you, I will fight you. So she's like, fine, so be it. And they had, a really cool fight sequence. I liked that there was still honor there, that she broke her spear in half and gave him half of it.
So it was a fair fight.
And oh my god, though, it was so cool. And I love the way he ended it. Again, the things that we watch nowadays, and they throw in wrestling moves, because he ended it with a clothesline, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did a really stiff clothesline that knocked her down, and then she admitted defeat, and she was like, obviously a warrior graciously admits their defeat, and sort of he helped her up and stuff, and she's like, okay, well, I respect your decision, but I'm worried that you're going to regret it, that this is going to come back and bite you, basically. And she flew off back up to heaven.
Yeah, she just disappeared.
So that was
But I
that.
thought at the time, I don't think that's the last we've seen of her, but for the moment, she's going to leave him be. Yeah, so Eve's decided, because Lucifer's all evil, she wants to get involved in helping him catch the bad people.
Yes, because she thought it'd be more exciting if she could actually be there on the ground. She said, now I understand. I understand now why you wanted to work with the police, because it allows you to be there on the forefront to go out and find people to punish. So I want to come along. And so then that was so funny when they turned up and Chloe was talking about Eve and stuff. And then she was like, she's right behind me, isn't she? And Ella was like, yep. And she was really bubbly and really like, this is so exciting. And then she's like, and then we punished them. And then...
Well, they came as a couple to the station, didn't they? It's like, I've come to help.
Yeah, well, no, they initially turned up at the crime scene as a couple, and there was that
crime scene as a couple. That's it, yeah.
Hilarious bit when they got involved in sort of figuring out the next part of the next clue. They celebrated by snogging, and Chloe looked very embarrassed because she was like, I'm trying to do my job as a police officer, and my consultants are sort of necking off with each other, and it's like, don't really know what to do with myself right now.
And then we had that sweet bit with Maze chatting to the unborn baby.
Yes, sweet and sinister at the same time.
Yeah.
Because she was talking about killing her enemies and how she was the smallest out of all of the Lilim, and that she just had to learn to, to get scrappy and fight. And she was then talking about all the graphic details of how she killed her enemies and all of this stuff. And Linda was like, when I told you about the baby being able to hear things, I thought it was going to be more... introducing the baby to classical music and things like that, not sort of talking about murder and...
Well, she was saying, and also she was saying, I'm going to protect you and protect your mummy, but at the time she didn't realise she really did need protecting, did she?
Yes.
At that time when she said all that, it's like, you don't realise, because obviously because of the sister,
yeah,
it's like, you don't realise you do need to protect her, because if this girl gets hold of her at the time, it's like, oh...
And Linda was getting a bit annoyed with her, wasn't she? Because she was like, I don't need you following me everywhere. I don't need you being protective like this. And it was something she said that sort of triggered Linda to go, Maze, give me my space. Which, did she say our baby?
Yeah.
And she went, it's not our baby. You're Auntie Maze, but it's not our baby. So Maze was kind of like very put out, like, but I'm just trying to help you. And then you had all that funny stuff with her throughout the episode where she was like appearing, like hiding in cupboards and jumping out from behind places and stuff like that.
And in the street.
Yeah, that bit was great, because like it was around that time, wasn't it, with the whole stuff to do with Remiel. And Linda's walking along, and then she's like, I'm sure somebody's following me, and you're thinking, they set it up in the episode to make you think, oh, she's going to confront Linda. And then it was Maze. And she was like, somebody was following me, and she said, I felt like someone was following me. And Maze is like, yeah, that's why I had to be with you. And she's like, no, Maze, it was you that I could sense that was following me. And she's like, you need to back off.
Taking this auntie thing very serious.
But what I love as well is that how she doesn't get it sometimes, because Linda's like, you need to back off and give me my space. Okay, I respect that, I understand. So, want to go and get a coconut water? She's like, oh, Maze. So that was that little sort of comedy side bit. But then we had, going back to the main bit, it was lots of James Bond puns because of the whole thing with the man with the golden gun.
Yes.
That this assassin guy, what's his name? Pony Boy?
That's it, Pony Boy.
Yeah. So they went to find him, and then that led them on to somebody else, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, obviously, Dan was trying to find the evidence that Lucifer was involved in this previous thing. Mm-hmm. And it led back to the guy's dad, didn't it? The guy from the warehouse, his dad.
Yeah, before that, though, I have to say something that I mentioned last week. Now, it's quite, because obviously you've watched all these episodes already, I wondered whether at the time you might have thought, but it's more important, Dom, than you realise. And it was the bit, when Lucifer turned up to punish that Julian guy, yes. I said at the time, I can't believe that he lit a cigarette and then he put it out almost immediately, what a waste and all of this lot.
Yes, I remember.
That was the thing that gave Dan his clue that, like, his hunches about Lucifer were more than just hunches, because he went to the house and found that he paid off the cleaners and stuff, so they didn't clean the place, and he found the cigarette, and he said, this is Lucifer's brand. Yeah. And it was like, so that little bit last week with the cigarette was far more important than it had appeared to be at the time.
Yeah.
So yes, then by investigating this assassin guy, this pony boy, that they eventually got through him, and it led them back to Julian's dad. And that was interesting.
Lucifer wasn't happy, was he?
Because he knew that he was a bad man, didn't he?
Yeah. And it's like he wanted to kill him.
And when he was saying
his dad there and then, and she was going, yeah, Eve was egging it on and everything, wasn't she? Saying, yeah, it's his fault and all this stuff. Is that when he found out the guy had only broke his back?
Yes.
And he wasn't dead.
Mm-hmm.
But then he said to the dad something like the dad was next or something on his list.
Yeah, and he said
it's all thanks to him.
You're going to get punished. Yeah, because then it was also the thing about the chain of events that this bad guy had been punished by Lucifer for what he had done, and obviously for killing the policewoman. Then the dad, not knowing who had broken the son's back, set out to get revenge on the person he thought was responsible. So it's then like other evil deeds have been committed and other murders have been committed, and it's as a result of what Lucifer did, effectively.
Yeah.
So this whole chain of events has kind of come about as a result of Lucifer. Well, I suppose it's like Lucifer not being the devil in the first place, which, if he had been, potentially could have stopped the police officer from being killed. So he then became the devil again and punished this guy. But then by punishing this guy, this led on to more murders happening. So it's like, this is all my fault in one way, shape or form. I need to make this right because this is the guy that now needs punishing. And then he was he like almost bent the metal of the chair, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he was so angry.
It was going to kill him, but then he didn't. So then we next find out, because Dan's been following it around, sniffing around. Yeah. He went to see the dad, and he told him that it was Lucifer, and he asked him to deal with him, didn't he?
Yes.
Said he's an evil person and all this stuff. So basically, the dad's on his case now, so it's all him. In the meantime, something's going on at the house, and I think it was Chloe talking about something to do with Lucifer, and Trixie's listening to all this.
Yeah, first time we've seen Trixie in ages.
Yeah, and she decides to nip out, turns up to see Lucifer.
She said she was worried about Lucifer, and that he's not in a good place, and that he's at that point where he needs a friend.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like you said, she just randomly turned up, which was really funny, and he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I heard you needed a friend. So I've come to see you. And then that whole bit with her and Eve where she was giving her the third degree and she was asking her, who are you? Where'd you come from? What are your intentions? And all this stuff. Are you a good friend? It was brilliant. I loved that whole bit. It was so funny.
But then also she went missing. They didn't know where she'd gone.
Yeah, because Dan was supposed to be having her, wasn't he?
Yeah, something like that. And because Dan had sent the guy, basically the dad turned up at Lucifer's, and Trixie's there.
Well, the dad didn't. His hitman turned
his
up.
henchman, yeah. The henchman turned up. Dan's realised Trixie's gone to see Lucifer, and he sent that guy to sort him out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was close. Like, he had that moment where he was like, wait, so Trixie's gone to Lucifer's. Those people are probably going to go after Lucifer. We need to get there quickly, sort of thing. So it was like, oh no, that's not good at all. Luckily, Lucifer was Lucifer, and those guys came in, and Eve protected Trixie, and then Lucifer did his thing, and stood and withstood some bullets, and took out both the guys, and he was just about to, I think he was about to shoot that pony boy guy with his own gun, wasn't he? Because he was like twisting it round, and then they came in, they came through out of the lift, and took charge of the situation, and he backed off. But then he was really cross, because he was like, I can't believe this happened and all of this lot, and he was annoyed that this is spiralling out of control, and Eve is sort of telling him, you need to deal with this, you need to do it, and he's like, yes, I do, especially now more than ever after this. But then Chloe was talking to him about him finding himself again and thinking, Eve's a bad influence on you. Since she turned up, you've been different, which was funny, because then later on she said, I think the detective's a bad influence on you, because she's trying to prevent you from being who you're meant to be. But also in that conversation, and also, yeah, it was nice because he said, I'd do anything to protect that little urchin in terms of Trixie. Because even though he's always like, oh, human child, oh, disgusting creature, he's like, I'd do anything to protect her. I wouldn't let any harm come to her. And then she said about, because it was, no, what happened before that was important. you had all these little bits in the background that have been going on all season to do with Ella. And about Ella and her faith and losing faith and stuff. And Chloe having this crisis of faith, knowing what Lucifer is, knowing who Eve is and stuff, went to speak to the only person she felt she could who would understand about religion, and that was Ella. And she was talking to her about, like, the devil and God and this, that, and the other, and about whether or not what we do here on Earth matters, because, you know, we're just human, but surely, like, divine justice is bigger than that, you know, like, than us. So what's the point in us doing what we're doing? And so then Ella basically revealed, I'm not religious anymore. I don't believe in all this. I think it's a load of rubbish. I don't believe, you know, that it's real. There is no such thing as any of this. And she was saying then, it came up then about, like, Lucifer. Like, it doesn't make sense because, you know, like, look at Lucifer, for example. No, look at the devil, she said. Look at the devil, for example. We're led to believe by this book. We're supposed to believe that he is the root of all evil and he's everything. But he started out as an angel. How can something that was an angel be all, you know, this evil? And then Chloe was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. So then when, flash forward back to that scene that we were just on, she said that to him about, you know, you were an angel. You started out as an angel. So you can't be inherently bad because you were an angel. And she said about his wings, and he said, I haven't checked on them since what happened, like, last season.
Yeah, she said, you should check on your wings. And I was thinking, he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it.
Yeah.
He said, oh, yes, everything's fine. But he brought in the guy, didn't he? The dad.
Yes, because he then said he was going to deal with it, and you're thinking, oh, here we go. And he went over there, and he revealed who he was. His eyes glowed and everything. And the next thing, he came into the police station with him.
Yeah.
And handed him over.
That's
and it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the other bit we missed. Oh, I can't believe we missed this bit as well. The other bit we missed was during the course of this investigation, Lucifer getting more and more frustrated with not being able to deal with things the way he wanted. And he was in one of their little separate rooms. Chloe comes in and she's like, I don't know what's wrong with you and this, that, and the other. And he really lost his temper. And he said, that's what led her down the path of, like, worrying about him, because he said, none of this matters. What you do doesn't matter. I'm the devil. My job is to punish the wicked. Let me do my job. Stop getting in my way. And then he said about dealing with things, and he said, I basically caused all this ever since I broke Julian's back. And she went, what? You did that? Because then obviously she didn't want to believe it when Dan was going down that route.
Yeah.
And she said, I can't believe it. And she got really upset, didn't she, of thinking, oh my God, you did this. So then when he comes back in later on, it's like, oh, okay. So and he's like, you know, I need to do things. So it's like, I know I've done certain things outside of the rules, but there you go. I've done the right thing this time. I brought him in for you to take him on for justice. And
we also Dan
is very awkward now, isn't he? Because Dan's like knowing that he caused all of this, like by grassing up Lucifer and putting his daughter in danger and all of this stuff. And it's like, what's going to happen when Lucifer finds out about that? He's like a lost
soul, so he felt he chatted. He was talking to Ella without telling Ella.
Yeah.
And didn't they have a little bit of a dalliance?
Yeah, I didn't like that. I was not on board with that, because they were talking, and they were talking about how they're both lost at the moment. They're both lost souls. And then their hands kind of touched. And then the next thing, they were snogging, and then he put her up on the desk. And I'm like, what? Come on, you're in the middle of the police station. Seriously, you telling me that there's no one else in the police station? You know, and you're just going to, that's like, you know,
there was no point to that bit.
I didn't like it. I just like, I don't want to see Dan and Ella involved with each other. That's not a coupling.
But it's like
I'm
pointless, really, in a way.
Yeah.
So then we had Chloe went to the prison to see the priest.
Because she had several phone calls during the episode, and she was like, I don't want to, I'm sorry, no. And she hung up, and I don't want to talk to them, and stuff like that, didn't she? So there'd been these little references that clearly this priest had been trying to reach her, and she'd been turning it down. But then, after the events of this episode, she decided to go and visit him. And didn't she say, you're wrong about him because, like, basically because what he did, because he did the right thing, he brought the guy into justice when he could have punished him. And it's like, that to me shows that, you know, he can't just be evil, and he can't be terrible, and this, that, and the other. And then he's like, you don't understand, I was wrong about everything. And she's like, what do you mean? And then he asked her if she wanted to hear the prophecy.
Yeah.
And he told her about the prophecy about Lucifer's first love, and he said about he got it wrong. And he said, it wasn't you, it's somebody else. And then her face changed, and he said, you know her, don't you? She's here, isn't she? who is it? And all this, and she's just looking, that look she does where she gets more and more wide-eyed.
Yeah.
And she said, what else does it say will happen? And he said that when Lucifer and his first love are reunited, they will unleash evil into the world.
Yeah, and then they panned to where Lucifer was at home, and I told you he hadn't checked the wings.
And he'd called
They're
Linda.
still there.
And he was really upset. And she's like, what's the matter? And he was like, I don't understand. And he was crying. And he was like, it's not right. This shouldn't have happened. Why is this happening? And he's like, I try and do the right thing. I try and this, that, and the other. And he was having this real crisis. And she's like, what is wrong? She's like, whatever it is, we can deal with it. Don't worry. And he's like, I don't think we can. And he's like, about his wings. She said, that's a good thing. And he's like, no, you don't understand. And she's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It was all this build up and build up. He's getting more frantic. She's getting more stressed and worried. And then he's like, if what I've been doing has been making a difference, why do they look like this? And he unfurled his wings, and they were the classic sort of demon
devil wings,
bat wing type things. And it's like, oh my god, so he's still got his wings, but they're not feathery anymore. Wings. Yeah. That's
obviously because of her.
Yep.
She's back. She's turning him back into like Amen had said. Amenadale, sorry, Amen.
Amen. Yep.
It said that she's going to turn him back into the evil. And it's obviously over time now, because now he's like accepted. Oh yes, I'm with her and stuff.
Yeah,
it's happening, isn't it? The prophecy's coming true. It's like, ooh.
So yeah, it's just like going forward. It's like, oh my god, the way things are building. Oh, it's so exciting! I can't wait to carry on watching this.
Yeah.
See where
how many episodes left? 2 more episodes?
3, because that was episode 7. So there's 3 more.
Yeah, 3 more episodes. So.
So yes, that was very, very exciting episode.
Love Lucifer.
Yes, love Lucifer, and lots of people love Lucifer. It's funny. The more I do of this YouTube thing, and the more interaction I have with with other YouTubers and people on Twitter and things like that, it's so funny how much Lucifer comes up in conversation.
Yeah.
Like just, a bit of shameless self-promotion. The 100 sub special collaboration video that I did with a couple of other small YouTubers. Lucifer came up in conversation during that.
Yeah. Your other guys.
Yeah. And, one person brought it up and everybody else chimed in and went, yeah, that's great. Or I've heard lots of great things about it and stuff. And it's like, it gets everywhere.
Well, we've helped promote it again, haven't we? So
yes,
if we'd done this a few years ago, they might not have axed it.
Yeah, that's true.
Although like I said, the writing's got better since though as well. So
oh yeah, definitely. And it's like we said before. I mean, like this season more than any. I mean, it was getting more. It's always had the supernatural, celestial sort of things going on with it. But last season, obviously, when they brought in the God's wife storyline, that made it even more supernaturally. And then it's really going down that route in this season.
Definitely. You have more to come.
Yeah, all right. We're going to move on now before you accidentally say anything.
Yes. I won't say nothing. I've moved my notes away from the building, from my eye shot.
We are now moving on to this week's episode of, what would be last week's episode, I suppose, of Fear the Walking Dead, which was called Humbug's Gulch. And this is the 3rd episode. And what's interesting about this one, Mum, is that this one was directed by Strand.
Yes.
Coleman Domingo actually directed this episode.
Aye.
So that was quite interesting. But yeah, so what do you think about this week's episode then?
Well, yeah. So it's mainly, the whole episode was basically more based around John and June.
Yes.
So at the beginning, they had all of them. They were killing walkers and mapping their way through the walker gates, basically. They were like, as they were chopping them down, they were making it like a route, weren't they?
That's they were trying to find all those weird roadblocks that they've encountered, weren't they? And see how far, like what the perimeter of it is, basically, I think.
Yeah. And obviously, meanwhile, June and John were heading off somewhere in the car. So the other 3 were staying put doing this bit. They were going off on the car, and at one point, the walkies were out of range.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then they found another walker gate, broke the walker gate, and then they started getting shot at.
Yeah, so they had to quickly rush back to the car.
Quickly get in the car, and then they saw a road sign, and he said, what did he say? Something like, things are going to get better. No, what did he say? Let me find what he said. he said our luck's going to change, and the sign said Humbug's Gulch or something.
Yeah.
And basically, they just headed into like Dodge City.
Yeah, wasn't it weird? Because it was basically like a.
Like,
It was like something out of Westworld. It was a old school Western town with saloon bars and stuff. It was like a tourist attraction thing.
And the stuff blowing down the street. What was it like?
Oh, the dust balls and things. Yeah.
The dust balls and stuff like that. And I thought, hey, we're in Dodge City.
Yeah. So he said this was like a place that he once worked at. And so he was like, oh, well, you know, if I remember, if it's set out the same as the one that I worked at, we should be able to get, because they didn't have any weaponry, so he was like, we should be able to get some weapons.
They were looking for ammunition and stuff and guns, weren't they?
So they went into the saloon, and there was a cabinet or something that had guns. He couldn't open it, and she was going to blast it, and she said, no, save your ammo.
Old school.
So she got some, like, pins or something, and she picked a lot. So then
they had loads of ammunition and guns. Just like,
shotguns and things like that, which was pretty cool. So then they then get, because there was a storm coming, and I will be honest, at the beginning, you know, when we get the little down, 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 and you get the opening credits and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, another storm.
Yeah.
Because it showed like a windy thing, and I was like, they did a storm last time, like last season. Yeah. Are we really going to have another storm?
It wasn't like a major storm. It was just like a quick sandstorm when it going through.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they were. He was reminiscing about the place and like telling her all the stuff about when he used to work. There was a joke about the brothel bit, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Don't worry, I didn't work in that bit." Yeah. All this stuff.
And then she was asking him something that's important for later. She was asking him about all these things, and she was like saying, "What's this thing? What's that thing?" And he wouldn't tell her any of that. And she was like saying all these weird names and all these like, was it like I can't remember. I can't honestly remember what any of them are now. I'm just going to say something random, but it was like the Kentucky splitter and this, that, and the other or whatever. And he like said all these different names of things, and he didn't really illuminate her on what any of them were.
No.
Like sort of, no, that was then, this is now. We don't need to talk about all of that. And so I'll tell you what sidebar as well. I thought it was so funny because I was like, based on who he is, what he is, how he's portrayed his character and everything, I just thought, yeah, I'm not surprised that he works somewhere like this.
No, he's the sort of person you expect, don't you?
Yeah, because he is just like
a town as well.
He's a cowboy, isn't he?
Proper cowboy. He's brilliant. I love him. So yeah, they sort of just settled well. We'll get the stuff, and they were probably thinking, oh, we might give it a bit, and then we'll get cracking again. And then they're getting shot at again. Yeah,
so then it's like, what, whoever it was, if they followed them to, you know, if they come after them to this town, why are they getting shot at?
So they went outside, didn't they, and just trying to find out who it was.
Yeah.
They could see somebody at the end of the road. So Dory got all his old guns out, and she was like hiding around the corner so she could maybe cut them off at the pass, as they say.
Yeah.
And it turned out, anyway, when they finally got hold of the guy, it was Dwight.
Yeah, so Dwight...
The Walking Dead.
Dwight has finally appeared because we knew he was going to show up.
Yeah. So apparently, since he left their camp back in The Walking Dead, he's been looking for his wife, Sherry. And he's still looking for her.
Well, yeah, because that was the last time we saw him. Daryl let him go, and he went to this house that was on the edge of like the territory that they're all settled up in, and he found some notes, and they were clearly like, you know, sort of clues as to where she might have gone. So he got in the car and he went, didn't he? Because Daryl said to him, go and find your wife. And so he did. And he's been looking for her ever since. And it's led him, you know, across from one state into another as he's followed this path to try and track down what's happened to his missing wife.
Yeah. So what they did is after they obviously shot him because they were trying to protect themselves, they took him in the saloon and tied him up. But June was trying to sort his wound out at the same time.
Yeah.
So he started telling them all the stuff about, you know, basically what he'd been doing.
Yeah.
And then, then the next thing we know, the place was surrounded, wasn't it, with walkers. And then he goes, walkers? What do you call them? Because he said, there's walkers. And they looked at him and go, what do you call them then?
Yeah, that's right. Which I thought was quite
or something.
funny.
Did he say like that?
Yeah.
So they decided they needed to get out. So the only way they could get out, he said, right, we need to go high.
And we need to get to my car, which is at the end of the road.
Track them to the place. We need to get high to get to the cars. Because obviously he said he had a car, didn't he? Because at one point he just said, take my car, just go.
Yeah.
Take my car. And he didn't think he was worthy of them saving him. Why would you save me? And I said, no, we're all going to go together. So they got up high and they played one of those pianos like in Westfield.
Yeah, that's right.
I was playing to get the walkers to go towards the door so they could get out on the top, but it was a bit dodgy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, for some reason, he jumps down on his own.
Yeah.
I was thinking, is he going to do a runner? Does he not want to be with them? Basically, that's what he was going to do. He's just thinking, I'm going to get to because their car, the car they were in, was apparently the car that he was following.
Which is why he'd been shooting at them, because he thought that they had done something to Sherry, because he was like, that was the last car I knew of that she was driving or something.
So he made a run for that car, didn't he?
Yeah.
And they were all stood on the top, and then Dory jumped down, and then there was like a fight ensued. So basically, he was at one end in their car, and they were the other end in his car.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like Dodge City, OK Corral shootout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when he got back in the car, he found all these paperwork because he'd been basically following a trail of messages she'd been leaving in various places.
Yeah.
And that was the next map for him to go to, basically the next place. But I can't stay here no longer. I need to go there. So he sat in this car thinking, there's nothing here. She hasn't left me any messages.
So then he thought, well, that's it then. Like, and they were like, no, we can because they were in the other car on the walkie, and he's getting more and more surrounded by walkers. And there's no way to how's he going to get out of this car? He's trapped now. And he's just like, basically, he was talking like he was going to kill himself or let himself die, wasn't he?
He let himself die, yeah.
Like,
he thought, well, that's
no
it,
point now.
the road. Nowhere else to look.
But then John kept asking him questions, and he kept sort of putting pieces together, and he determined about, like, well, that wasn't the car.
Yeah, they said they found the car at that camp, with the camp place.
Yeah.
With the radio, yeah. And he said she was nowhere to be seen. So there was no one in the car, so it probably isn't the car. So it's like talking him through, and then they decided, we're not leaving him.
Yep.
Joe goes, we're not leaving him. And so they had this, like, it was brilliant.
Well, it was just like they
getting him from one end to the other. He had an axe, so basically he got out of the car, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he started bashing him with an axe. They were shooting. Did she run out of bullets first?
Yeah, because John went ahead of her, and he was taking out some that broke away towards him. Dwight was dealing with some with the axe. She was shooting some as well that, again, filtered through up towards her, but she ran out of bullets. So he had that really cool moment where she sort of hit one she hit it with the butt of the rifle, and then she pulled a pistol out of her pocket and shot it in the head.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I was like, wow, that was cool.
At the other end, he got knocked down by a walker, so he was under a walker. And he still had the axe.
Yeah, and he killed the walker that was on top of him, but he was like trapped underneath it, and they were closing in.
They were coming towards him, yeah.
But then they were getting down to the final few, and there weren't many left. But then it was like, oh, there's a problem now because we're nearly out of ammo. Because all that ammo they got, they ended up using it, killing all these walkers. So they were then
there was two coming towards Dwight, and he said to him, put the axe up in the air.
Yeah, hold up the axe.
And oh my God. And he just did this shot, and it ricocheted, and it somehow went boom, boom, hit both of them.
It's because he split the bullet.
That was so good. It was called a San Antonio split.
That's right, San Antonio split. So this was, again, going back to the thing that the thing she had been asking him earlier on about all these things, and he didn't tell her. That was one of them. It was a trick shot. So he had shot at the axe, because how sharp it was, it split the bullet in half, and then the two halves went in and killed the two zombies. And it was just like, that was awesome. That was such a cool thing. And he was like, what did he say? That's the first time I've ever actually pulled it off or something.
Yeah, first time I pulled it off.
Yeah. Thank God you managed to do it this time then.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Well, meanwhile, we had Alicia and Luciano were in the car. They were driving, trying to find John, because obviously they'd lost radio contact. And then they went over a spike.
Yeah, so popped the tyres.
The car was out of action. Golden Morgan, and he said, I'll catch up with you. So they were like walking. She was still trying to get hold of the kids on the walkie. And then Morgan's car turned up. And his new stick is a pipe.
Yeah.
I thought, well, it's got a stick, but it's a pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he said to Alicia, because she's been quite cold with him, wasn't she? Because obviously her circumstances with her losing her mum and her brother.
Mm-hmm.
So she did a really heartfelt message on the radio to the kids. And then anyway, they then joined up with John and June at the OK Corral.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan saw Dwight.
Yeah, so they were...
Oh, Morgan is so lovely, isn't he? Because obviously he knows the past.
Mm-hmm.
He knows he was one of the saviours, but it's just like, he's so forgiving, isn't he? So Dwight was like, not expecting that kind of reaction, was he?
Well, it's the way that Morgan turned to him and said, I know how things ended for you.
Yeah.
As in, we know, obviously you sided with us in the end. You turned on the saviours. You lost everything, and then you left. So I know how it all went down. So, and then he's like, that was then. We've all come a long way since then. Let's leave the past in the past. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that was really good. That was... Because, that was the thing with Dwight. It's like, as we saw the evolution of his character on The Walking Dead, you started, you realised that this guy wasn't really a bad guy. He was in a situation that had come about due to circumstances, due to his relationship, and all of this kind of stuff.
Most of it was manipulated by Negan controlling his wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, he had to be like, oh, yes, because all he cared about is her safety, wasn't it, really? So he wasn't a bad guy, he's not bad through and through. It was just the circumstances that led him to be that kind of person, which is probably why Daryl let him go as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he realised that as well. So, yeah, so basically that was nice.
They asked him a little bit about his travels, and he said, those things are everywhere. And he said, any direction I went in, I couldn't go, anywhere without finding one of these things. And he took them to and it was like the largest one they've seen yet.
Yeah. So they were going to go, right, let's go then. We're going to, are we up for it? And everyone's up for it. And they were all going to plough, that was what they were going to do.
Yeah, let's see what's on the other side. Because they want to finally...
They got the message for the kids, didn't they?
Yeah, because they want to finally see what's on the other side. And they're like, let's do this. And like you said, that's when the radio call came through from Max, I think it was. And because all the way through the episode, that was the other thing. The side plot, when it kept going back to Alicia, like you said, they were looking for the kids because they had said in the previous episode they were going to try and find them. And they kept telling them not to find them. And they were like, leave us alone. Don't come here. They're here. They're looking for it. There was all this ominous stuff of like, we're hiding from them at the moment. Who's them? We can't say anything because if they hear over the radio, they're going to work out where we are and all of this kind of thing. So there was all these ominous things of like, oh, so whoever's on the other side of this barrier is after these kids. So then they get the call.
Because of them contacting them, they put the other thing on hold, didn't they? They thought, well, they're going back to the truck stop, so we need to go now because otherwise we'll miss them again.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they never went any further based on Dwight's information.
Yeah.
So when they headed back, they found the van, didn't they?
Yes, and it was all covered in blood and entrails and things like that. So it was like, oh my God, what's happened here?
Yeah, they had to cut through it to open the door, didn't they?
Yeah, and when they cut through it, they found the boy inside.
The little boy.
And he was all bloodied and things like that. It's like something had happened to him. And they were like,
where? He wasn't talking. They couldn't get him to say anything. They were asking him and he wasn't speaking.
Yeah.
And then... Then we see the other two tying up a load of zombie gates.
Yes.
Saying about Dylan and said, he knows what to say. Don't worry, he won't let us down. He won't let us down. He knows what we have to do. And I was thinking, what?
Yep.
They're doing this thing. I went, oh my days. What a ruse.
So it's like all these things they keep finding, thinking there's some sinister group on the other side or there's something special or secret or something on the other side. It's the kids that are doing it.
Why? What?
I know, it was insane. And it's the fact that then didn't the girl say like that they'll find out what they're all really doing here?
Yeah, something like that. It's really sinister.
Like this is why they're doing this. They're doing this and they've set this all up with the other brother and stuff to try and determine what Morgan and the gang are actually doing here. Which in a way, that bit to me was a bit like, I don't get it, because they told them why they were there in the first episode, and they saw them crash the plane, and they explained to them they were there trying to help people and stuff, so now why the kids are like, did they forget that happened in the first episode? Or did they just not believe them? And they're like, well, if we put them under pressure and stuff, they'll tell us the real reason they're here, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very weird, very weird.
I mean, I still feel that there's more to this than meets the eye. The other interesting thing as well, though, is the introduction of Dwight and the fact that one of the things he did say in relation to Sherry and her going, like, AWOL, was that he said, I don't know whether it was a feeling or whether he had evidence of this, the fact that she was on the run from some very bad people.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that going to tie into any of the people that we're going to meet during this show? Was that a reference to... No, it can't be a reference to the Saviors and stuff, because... No, I didn't get the impression that it was a throwback to what happened in Walking Dead. I got a feeling it was something that's going to become important as part of this show.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm just pondering that one now.
But again, I mean, obviously it was quite easy to talk about, but a lot of stuff happened in that, so it was quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you what as well, we didn't see... There was a few characters missing from this episode as well, though.
So we didn't see Strand, we didn't see Daniel.
We didn't see the trucker woman and the guy in the wheelchair.
Oh, we haven't seen Charlie. Charlie's still with them.
Oh, yeah, the little girl, yeah.
Oh, wait, that's 2 episodes we haven't seen him, because we only saw him in the first. So it's like, what's going on? What's happening to them while this is all going on?
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Maybe.
Because I know Strand went off on a tangent looking for that video, but where are they? What are they doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if hopefully they'll show that next week.
Yeah.
We will see.
We will see, indeed. Stay tuned for more, folks.
Good. Indeed.
Okay, so that's our time in the post-apocalyptic world of zombies. It's a good segue into going into the coming post-apocalyptic world. Sorry,
couldn't help myself.
That's all right. You can do a little bit of it, just don't do too much. We don't want to get a copyright strike.
It sounds probably nothing like the real thing.
Oh dear.
Tone deaf.
So, this is the 4th episode of Good Omens. And yeah, so we were, what was it? It was the day of the apocalypse, basically.
Yes, no, it was the day before.
Yeah, the final day, like the day before the apocalypse happened.
We opened with the governor of The Walking Dead.
Yes! David Morrissey.
He was on a cruise ship. He was the captain of a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And they found Atlantis.
That was so weird. Because it was weird how he was doing this narration. And he was like, day, whatever. And he's like, while heading in a such and such direction, we unexpectedly hit land. Land that wasn't there previously. And there were strange people and all this stuff. And there's all this thing about like...
In long robes and beards and diving helmets.
Yeah. And the fact that, the diving helmets was important because that was mentioned again. The diving helmets thing. And then they came aboard and made friends. And then what was it like the leader, the high priest or whatever won the best beard competition or something?
Yeah, they were taking all these snaps and sending like Snapchats, was it?
Yeah.
Snapchat, yeah, about this. What was funny about that, because that happened and then we didn't hear about it on the news till a little while later, but it was happening, so we saw it happening before the world knew it was happening. So yeah, so they got them all on board the ship, and then we could hear, make it happen, make it real, voices to Adam. So he'd been reading about stuff like this, so we thought, ooh. And it was Adam and his friends in the woods discussing the magazines.
Yes, and they were talking about Atlantis and about, it being real and what they were like down there. And they said they, imagined that they would have, be wise with beards and robes. And how would they survive down there? Oh, they probably have diving helmets and things. Yeah. So it's like all the things that he was saying were the things that happened. Like he was making his thoughts become a reality, just like we saw.
Making things real, yeah.
And because they had the reference, didn't they have on the radio as well, where somebody was phoning in BBC 4 and saying, "Could you explain to me exactly how it is that a power plant can be running without a reactor and all of this stuff?"
Yeah,
You're
all
the
the repercussions to what had happened to what he'd thought about before, yeah. So then we had Saturday. Last day of the world.
Yes.
We had Gabriel jogging in the park.
With very, very white trainers.
Yes, very, very white trainers. And the angel telling him of the prophecies.
Yes.
And Armageddon starts just after tea time.
Yep.
and he was still trying to get Gabriel to stop it. And he's going, no, this is how it should happen. This is exactly how it should go. And he's like really annoyed about it. And he goes, oh, by the way, don't you have a flaming sword?
Oh, no.
We've noticed on your itinerary you had a flaming sword. And he sort of said something like, oh, yeah, yes, I got it somewhere. Or I couldn't remember what he said. He was got like a...
And he's like, you might want to retrieve that then and bring that with you to the battle. And he's like, oh, yes, okay, jolly good. Oh, no. I'm now wondering, my mind, and I said this at the time to Zoe, was that I went, this is going to, I feel like this, because this is rammed throughout everything. So who's going to end up being the person that's in possession of this sword?
Yeah.
You feel
like...
It
started with Adam, didn't it? So who's going to end up with it? The real Adam.
Like it's going to be something. Somebody's going to have the sword.
Yeah, quite funny, actually. Hope so. So yeah, so then we go to the postman, and he's in his house getting ready for another job, and the wife said, oh, more work, and he goes, yeah, I've only got 2 jobs left.
And they're both local.
This job, they're both local, and this job was booked 6,000 years ago.
I don't know how that's possible. The company's only been around for 80 years, but we've got the paperwork and everything, it's all official. And she's like, well, hurry home, and yeah.
And he blew her a kiss, and she grabbed the kiss and said, see you soon.
And he said, don't worry, it'll all be, it'll be over soon. These are the last 2, and all this stuff.
So meanwhile, we went to heaven, and Michael was suspicious of the angel and the Crowley thing, and she got photos of him with Crowley.
Yes.
She said, I'm going to follow it up using back channels, and Gabriel goes, well, we don't have back channels anymore. And as she went out into the hallway, and she had like a mobile phone, wasn't it?
I want one of them phones. that mobile phone was awesome. I was like, I want one of them. Sorry.
So she rang hell, didn't she?
Yes, he phoned the guy that has the lizard on his head.
Yes, saying about her suspicions about Crowley. He goes, oh yes, we think we're like they were sort of. He said, yes, he's always up to no good. And was that the bit where he went to tell? Or was that later on when he went to tell Hasta?
No, when he got off the phone, he went and spoke to Hasta, and he said,
oh, we know his name now, Hasta La Vista. Remember?
I think our concerns. There's more to our concerns about Crowley than we previously thought.
And he was like getting cut. They had a leak, didn't they? They had a.
Yes, the pipes were leaking, and he was like, I want to get out of here soon. I didn't sign up for this, and all this. That was how weird a little bit, that. I'll be glad when the apocalypse comes, so I don't have to be doing jobs like this anymore.
Yeah. And then we had Crowley in his house with a globe, trying to work out where he could disappear to. He was like, where can I go? And he was looking at all the astrological. Oh yes, I created that one, and
Alpha Centauri. I helped create
that one. Maybe I could go there. And he's trying to work out what he's going to do.
Yep.
And then we had the parcel guy on his first parcel on a busy road. Nearly gets run over by a truck.
Yes, and sort of says he made a comment about the big trucks, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, that was close.
Yeah.
And then he went down a path, and they were talking about life. There was a narrative, wasn't there? Yeah,
we got the narration again about things, and it was basically the introduction to the next horseman, and talking about there was
a river. There was someone sat on a bench as he was walking, and there was all rubbish in the lake, and there was a weird woman, Chinese looking, blonde hair, white hair.
Yeah.
And he kept referring to her as sir.
Yes. If you can just sign here, please, sir.
And everything was sir, sir, sir. And then when she did, she opened a box and she chucked the box in the river amongst all the other junk. And it turned out this was the 4 horsemen because pestilence, something about pestilence.
Had retired.
So now the new 3rd horseman was pollution.
Which I thought was really clever, because I thought in a modern day context it makes sense.
That's really good, yeah.
Because I thought,
with all the plastic and stuff in it.
Because if you think about it, it's like it made a lot of sense, because pestilence, is to do like illnesses and swarms of things and stuff like that, and it's like those kind of things aren't as big a deal to us anymore because of medicine and because of insecticides and all of this kind of stuff. But what is a big problem that's sort of causing issues for the world, and that's pollution. So to have pestilence retire and a new horseman step forward who was pollution, I just thought that was perfect. I thought that was so
brilliant.
clever and so on
So
the
clever.
nose, in terms of modern day
So current.
society.
So current, wasn't it? Well, even the famine one was.
Yeah.
Because to think about the fast food and, like you say, all that stuff.
Yeah.
People that gorge themselves on food, and obviously the ones that go, well, this is what you call food, but there's nothing to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite current as well, to be fair. So anyway, then he goes back to his truck. Did he nearly get run over the second time when he went back to a truck? I don't know if he did.
No.
And he found.
He didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't get run over. Nearly get run over then.
So he found a letter with instructions, and then he started writing something to his girlfriend.
To his wife.
His
yeah.
wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, that was awful.
I could see that coming a mile off, though.
Well, didn't he get out of the car?
Right, you're jumping ahead there.
You tell me.
Giving the plot away before we've even got to that point. When he got into the truck and he got the letter out and stuff, it was like, okay, last delivery, and then it's like, oh, there's not anything to deliver. So he opened it up and there's the instructions, and he read it, and then he looked very solemn and put it back in very carefully and very seriously. And then he got a pad of paper and he started writing something, and then it was just a note to his wife to tell her that he loved her, and it was like a goodbye. And before he even started writing that, again, I knew what was coming. I saw it and I went, he's the last delivery. Like, there isn't a thing to deliver, it's him. And he stepped out of the truck, and one of those big lorries that had been foreshadowed earlier on smacked into him, but then he was still there, and then he went, oh, well, that was a close shave. And then he looked and went, oh. And obviously it was his ghost.
Himself on the ground.
Yeah, and then we got Brian Cox shows up. Because that's who the voice was. That was the voice.
Really?
So Brian Cox walks forward and he's like, no, not that. Brian Cox is in the actor, not the astrological guy.
Oh.
The little, he's a little Scottish guy with a beard and stuff like that.
Oh, I know you mean.
Oh dear.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Professor Brian Cox arrived. So he walked, and it was the Grim Reaper. It was Death, and he said, "I've got a delivery for you, sir." And he said, "Well, it's more of a message, really." And then he delivered his message, and he said, "What is this message?" And they said, "Come and see." And then he went, "Ah, it is time. Myself and my brothers will ride again." And I was like, "Oh no!" So Death has now been summoned into the fold as well.
Yeah, it was sad for the poor post lesson.
His final delivery was quite literally his final delivery.
Final delivery, yeah. Yeah. So then, after that bit, we went. It was the kids again, and they'd gone to the cottage to see the woman to get some more magazines. What's that bit when they didn't want to go in the house and she offered them candy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they weren't going to go, and then she said chocolate or something, and one of them went, "Oh, that one, the Brian, and who eats everything."
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, let's go in." Yeah, so they went in the house, didn't they? Was that the bit where they went in to get some more magazines, and that's when he was looking around the house, Adam,
and he spotted the picture of the devil.
The devil, yeah. And he was like, he was fixated on it, wasn't he?
And then all the weird voices started. And the other important thing to note before this, though, was, as you said, the conversations about the things in the magazines will also mention things about aliens and stuff like this.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, that was all quite important. And he had a model in his bedroom of a spaceship, a very particularly shaped spaceship, shall we say. Yep. So then they're in there. Yeah, and then he told them to leave, didn't he?
Yeah, he said, yeah, you could go now or something.
No. They wanted to go and he wouldn't let them.
Leave, and he wouldn't let them leave.
Yes.
He said, "Oh, can you go now?" And he said, "No, you can't leave." And they couldn't literally move, could they?
Yeah. And then he decided to let them go.
So basically they walked off and they were talking about him. We won't talk about that yet because that was a bit later on.
No, that followed on, didn't it? I thought that bit.
No, because the
Did
things
it then cut away from them to Shadwell and...
Yeah, it was Pulsifar getting set to find Adam, and he gave him a big coat. He goes, "Here, wear this," and he's given him a big coat.
And what else?
Discovery.
And what else did he give him?
Thumb screws.
And
fire lighters, a bell.
Yeah.
A book.
And a candle. Oh,
All the
that
ones
was
he'd
funny.
lost.
Bell
And
booking
to
candle, that was
exercise the
funny.
demon, that's what we had to use. And then finally, a pin. A
Yeah.
bayonet in your army of light, which said which army, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So he set off in his Reliant Robin.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on his way, we then snipped to these two people underground.
Having a tea break, and they didn't
And said,
know how
I was
they'd
doing
got
such a
there.
thing, and then I was here. And then the
Mm.
woman said something, and then was there. And they went, tea break's over, and started tunneling under the ground.
And
Like,
yeah,
okay.
that was all
Well, what's
very
that
weird.
relevant to? What was that to do with what he read then?
Something to do with Tibetan tunnels, or like a conspiracy about secret, like, Tibetan tunnels under the ground or something.
Okay. So then we had the guy going along on his Reliant Robin, and then all of a sudden a spaceship appears and stops beside him.
And they were like police because they like pulled him over, didn't they?
They pulled him over. Yeah, and this space people came out and asked him. Did they say, "Where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from here," or something.
And they were like, "Do you know why we're here, sir?" And he was like, "I have no idea." And they were like, "Well, we were hoping somebody would because we don't know why we're here. And then we've been examining your planet. And it's got very high levels of such and such in the air and all of this. Like, we've been doing lots of scans and there's lots of problems here." Because that was the other thing the kids had talked about when they were talking about aliens. They were talking about the different types of aliens, the way they've been depicted over the years. And then one of them said, I think it was the one with the glasses. What's his name? What's he called again?
Can't remember. That's in my last week's notes.
Oh, I can't remember anyway.
Benjamin?
No, it was something weird. It's like a weird name. But anyway, he said about them being, he thought that they'd be sort of all to do with the environment and about looking after the planet and all of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the reference was made to them basically being like environmental police. So then when they showed up, that's exactly what they were like. They were like police, they pulled him over, they were asking him all these questions, and all the stuff was to do with the planet, looking after the planet, how we're not looking after the planet, and all of this kind of stuff. And he sort of sat there going, okay, I'm sorry, yes, okay, very well, and stuff. He looked like really terrified. And they were weird when the female took off her helmet. It's like a weird duck, yeah.
And a duck face, and then she goes, I don't know why we have been asked to send this message, or something like that. It's like, we've just been told we have to send this message to you, and it's like, oh, okay then.
Yeah. On your way then, sir. But the spaceship looked just like the one hanging in Adam's bedroom.
Yes.
So that was the importance of me saying a very particular spaceship, because it was just the same, but like a real life version, not one made out of cardboard.
Yeah. So we had the kids walking down the street, then we cut to them talking about saving the whales, and it's all about save the whales. What harm do they do?
Yes, and about the whales, that if they're so clever, why do they spend all day swimming around in the sea? And then one of them was like, I quite like the idea of that. And it's like, yeah, that sounds quite good and stuff.
And the next thing we see a research ship
Yeah.
on the water, sea levels going up and down, and it's the Kraken.
Yes, and it was a very...
The Kraken appeared and destroyed the ship and saved the whales.
Weird looking thing from the very beginning of in the opening credits every week, you see that weird looking creature in the background. And it's got a weird sort of, almost like a man's face, but like a weird sea monster body and tentacles and things like that. It's very odd looking creature. Because it has like an expressionless face, doesn't it? Yeah. It's like big eyes and just like a mouth that's just like really like, whoa. Like, you imagine if it had a voice, it'd be like, oh, I don't really know why I'm here. You know, like a really sort of miserable, dopey voice. That was, again, going in with the stuff that happened throughout the course of the episode, where they kept having these news bulletins about these things are happening, this has appeared, this, that, and the other. And that was on the news as well, about like about
the Kraken, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't the Kraken, it was the Leviathan.
Was it?
Yeah, Leviathan, which is the thing in the Bible, that the creature that slumbers until the end of the world, until it will emerge from the sea. Yeah. And it was the Leviathan.
Okay. So then we had Amanthea. She was sat after the kids had obviously left her, she had cards related to the prophecies because she lost the book.
Yeah.
And she knew Pulsifier was on his way in a three-wheel car.
What was it? Robin's something chariot.
Yeah. It's going to crash, like it was going to turn over. She knew she just literally waited. She had the cards and she was getting like all this like medical stuff ready.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we were seeing him driving, and what caused him to crash?
The Tibetans came out of the road.
Oh, yeah, the two people popped their head up. And he just crashed it.
He swerved to avoid them, and the car ended up rolling and landing on its roof. And then when he got out of the car, when he sort of, they'd gone, they disappeared back in the hole again. And then the kids were just passing, obviously, and then that's when they saw him, and they brought him to her cottage because he was injured and so obviously that was where they were in relation to everything else. It was the closest place.
Yeah, so she was been waiting for him to come because she'd had the prediction.
Wait, no, and that's when the kids went to her house. They hadn't gone there previously. It was
No, because they were talking about the whales with him, weren't they? Then they went to the house, and then he was looking at the pictures.
Yeah, that's when that all happened.
And then they left when he got there.
Yeah, so we got ourselves a little bit confused there, because I'm sure they did see her earlier on in the episode, like you said, the whole bit with the sweets and stuff. But that was just like a brief thing, and then. Yeah. They then went back there when they brought Pulsifer.
When they saved the guy, yeah.
And that's when he saw the picture, and that's when he refused to let them leave. Yeah. And all of that stuff happened at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also,
so we just combined two things there.
In between this all going on, Hasta had gone to the fields of Megadon.
Yes.
The prophesied site of the Armageddon.
Yep.
And he encountered some weird demon...
Triplets.
Triplets talking through the process. Oh my god! Go on, let me talk about that bit. I'll let you do that bit.
Well, the first one came forward and he had like an itinerary, didn't he? And he said, "This is what's going to happen." And then what did he say about the area, about what they grow? Something that grows there.
Is it aubergine?
No, I don't think it was aubergines. It was some other vegetable.
It's something like aubergine, something big like that.
Oh no, avocado. Avocado.
Yeah,
and
there
he said we make a joke round here about what did he say? Well, that's one big avocado or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And Hasta was like, I'm not really one for jokes. I don't really go in for jokes.
He burnt him to death.
Yeah, he grabbed the guy's head and he just basically set him on fire until he turned into ash. And then the next one stepped forward, picked up the notebook off the ground, and then he spoke. And there's Bruce.
Geek dog, sorry.
Geek dog. So then he spoke, and then he said, right, anyway, in continuation, and then he said about what time they would arrive, and where they're going to be stood, and then they're going to be having a selfie. And then he went, what is a selfie? And all this lot. And then he said, it's a photograph. And then he said, I believe that Crowley invented them. And
that pissed him off.
So then he killed that one. And then the third one stepped forward, and obviously not wanting to go suffer the same fate as the other two, he was all business. And then Hasta made a joke about one big avocado or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, I thought you didn't do jokes. So then we had the American delegation turned up, didn't they?
Yeah, the entourage was heading to Megadon on a historical fact-finding vacation.
Yes.
So Hasta La Vista.
Yeah, because that's how he introduced himself. This is our local guide, Professor
My name is Hasta La
Vista.
Is there to greet them.
Yep.
And the little boy, Warlock, he went to Warlock, because obviously he's supposed to be the demon child. He goes, you smell a poo.
Yeah.
And did he say something about, is there a dog? There's a dog around here. And he said, no, you smell a poo.
And he was like, no, he said, no, he didn't say that. He said he was looking for the dog. The senator guy kept trying to ask him
he's looking for the dog,
and he was
telling dog, the hellhound.
Yeah, and the American ambassador guy was like going, asking him all, and he went, will you just shut up? Will you stop your drivel? It's not important. What's important is what's to come. And he's like, where's the dog? And then he's like, what dog? I haven't got a dog. And then he was like, there must be something. And then he said to the boy again, what are you thinking? Do you hear voices? Do you hear anything? Are they telling you anything? Are they talking to you? What are they saying right now? And he went, what am I thinking? What are the voices telling me? They're telling me, you smell like poo.
You smell like poo.
And he just was like,
and then that's when he realised it was all messed up, didn't he? He went like, oh, yeah, something's gone wrong. Mm-hmm. So then we nipped back to Crowley, and he was watching a cinema of the Teletubby type film. Some weird, they were bunnies, weren't they?
Yeah.
And Hasta came on it, took over the screening, talking to him. They said, Crowley, you've messed everything up. We're going to get you. We're coming to get you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh. Meanwhile, back with
Anathema.
She's telling Lucifer what she knows about him.
And she reveals all the stuff about the prophecies and about Agnes Nutter, and she goes through the thing that happened, how she knew he was going to get there, and all of this kind of thing. And then she also reveals their connection to each other.
Yep.
In terms of who she is and who he is.
Yes.
And who he's related to and stuff like that.
And wasn't that the bit where he said about what he'd come there for, the boy, Adam, and she went, Adam?
Yeah.
And then she realised Adam is but it can't be. He's such a nice little lad, and she's realised he's been right under her nose.
And then there was the other prophecy.
Picked up on it.
And basically in the other prophecy, it was broken down into separate parts, but it basically gave Adam Young, and then whatever the name of the road is that he lives on and stuff, it was all there. And she was like, how did I not see this before? Like, all the components were in this prophecy, but I just didn't put them all together. And it was because he had obviously you showed that bit again where Shadwell was writing down the name and address and everything. And it was like that correlates directly with the prophecy.
Yeah.
So she was like, oh my God.
We saw Adam again, didn't we? We saw the boys and girls just previous to that saying, oh, that was really weird. He really scared me.
Yeah.
I don't think he was going to let us go. And then he appeared, didn't he?
Oh, that was creepy. He was just around the other side of the tree with the dog.
Yeah, just stood there. So I was saying, no, you tell us about that bit.
I mean, the sort of the long and the short of it there is that he confronted them and then he got them to come with him. He said, you need to come with me now. It's all starting now, and it's all becoming, apparent what has to happen. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, come on, you have to come with me. And he was basically making them, like, by his powers, they were walking, and they were like, we don't want to. And he's like, yes, you do. You want to stay with me now? And they went back to their, like, treehouse base thing. And he was explaining about how nothing matters anymore. Everything that and it was weird because it was like a weird environmental rant. It was like human beings have destroyed this world and we had all these marvels and all these treasures and we're like, almost like we're like a cancer and it needs to be dealt with. It can't go on like this anymore. Nobody's going to listen to us. Who's going to listen to us? We're only kids. We need to do something about this. The best thing that would happen would be for, like, all the nuclear bombs to fall on the world and just wipe everybody out. And they're like, but what about us? Oh, we'd be all right. I'd look after you all.
I'd look after you, yeah.
And then we'd, like, start again. And then we'd start afresh and make everything better. And they're like, we want to go home. And he's like, no, you don't. You want to stay with me. And he was getting more and more, like, controlling and more scary, and they were getting really terrified about all this. Even the dog was whimpering, which was quite bizarre.
Yeah, the dog didn't feel very comfortable, did it? Because he still needs the hellhound.
Yeah, and then it culminated ultimately with him getting so cross with them that he zipped their mouths shut.
Yeah, he muted them, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he ended up floating up into the air.
Yeah.
And he was just like hovering there in front of them, spouting his vision of what's going to happen in the world. And I've got friends coming. And all this.
And then we went back to Crowley. Crowley had decided to go and find the angels, tried to make up with him and say, like, let's go now. Let's get away. Let's not be around for this Armageddon. We can go anywhere. I found a planet we can go to. And the angel didn't have any of it, is he? And he's going, I'm going to talk to the High Almighty. There's got to be a way out of it. I'm not going to sort of run away from it. There's got to be some way of talking to somebody higher up.
Because you did have, you did, sorry to interject, but you did have a bit earlier with Crowley, where Crowley, when he was trying to decide where to go, he made an appeal to God, which was quite funny because it was like, here's a demon appealing directly to God to basically answer his prayer. And he was saying, look, this is silly. Call all this off. They don't deserve this. Why did you make all of this only to put them through this? Come on, you can do something about this. You can stop this from happening. And then he was like then he said who he is and what he is. And
it was his master's decisions, not mine.
I didn't want to go, I didn't want to fall. I didn't, I just, what did he say? Something like, I like talking or something. Or I like I like being involved in stuff. So that's how he ended up becoming a fallen angel. Not because he was wicked, or because he had rebelled against heaven. He'd just kind of gone along with the flow of things.
Yeah.
And now he's like saying, please do something about this. So that was interesting. He made that appeal. So then when you get to the bit where obviously he's trying to convince Aziraphale to come with him, and he made the little, I didn't get the little joke. It was funny, but it was weird when he said about Alpha Centauri, and he said there's no ladders up there or something.
Yeah.
Said something about there's no ladders there, or they don't have many ladders or something.
Don't know what
And
I
then,
meant.
Aziraphale said,
And he left him. He said, no, go.
you need to get out of here. I'm gonna directly contact heaven. I'm gonna see if I can speak to God. And he's like, yeah, good luck with that and everything. He's like, fine, I'm getting out of here. And then you got a little man come along because he obviously thought they were having a relationship breakup, and he sort of
Oh
consoled
yeah.
him, didn't he? And he sort of went, oh, don't worry. He said, I know what that feels like. And he said, something like that. I don't know whether it was like there's plenty more fish in the sea, or like you can do better than him, or something like that. I was like,
He sort of dismissed him, didn't he?
They're not a couple.
But then we went back to Crowley. Went back to his place, and he got the holy water out, didn't he? So he thought, right, I'm ready for them because they're coming for me. So he put a big bucket on the door, ready for them.
Yeah.
And then that literally burnt him to pieces. And the other guy was screaming like a child, going, ah!
Yeah.
Ah!
Like, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did that.
What a way to die. Why could you do that to him? And then he had a squirty bottle for his plants, didn't he? He goes, and he said it squirts so fast.
Yeah.
And then he pressed it, and then it just dropped in it onto his finger.
No. He didn't press it. It was like one of these kind of Western standoffs because it kept cutting between them. And Hasta was like going, you're bluffing. And he was like, am I? Maybe you want to try it and all this lot. And he's like, no, I don't believe you. And he looked, and then you could see a little trickle dropped from the bottle, the tip of the bottle, and it dropped on his finger. And as soon as that happened, he realised that's not holy water.
No, because it would have burnt his hand.
Yeah, and then it was like the ruse was up. And then I found this was a very Doctor Who style moment. I don't know about you, I just felt the way that David Tennant delivered and was so over the top and so flamboyant and everything in that moment. I was like, this is like something, when he was Doctor Who, some of his big speeches and stuff, and he like jumped up on the chair and he's like, well done, I knew you could do it, you passed the test, my friend, and all this kind of stuff. And Hasta's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, the Lords of Hell, they charge me with testing you to see if you were ready for what's to come. What do you mean? And he's like, to lead the legions of hell. You did it, you passed, and all this stuff. And it was like trying to pull the wool over his eyes and make out like all of this was a ruse to see whether he was worthy or not to lead the army during the apocalypse.
And he had a phone call from the angel trying to get hold of him, and he was like, not now, I haven't got time.
Yeah.
Because he was saying, I know where the Antichrist is, and he was doing all this stuff to Hasta, and the next thing he just disappeared into the network.
Well, yeah, because Hasta realised it was all rubbish, and he said he needed to make a call because he needed to call hell, and he was like, you're calling them now? And he was like, yeah. And then he went, and then all of a sudden he disintegrated into like blocks, basically, into like information, and he went into the phone, and then Hasta did the same, and then they had the narration talked about the whole thing about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
Oh, I know.
And in fact, like, angels don't dance, except for that one time when Aziraphale learnt this particular dance move, and he fell in love with it, and he was very disappointed when it went out of fashion. So the answer to that question, realistically, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, the answer would be one, and that would be Aziraphale. Demons, on the other hand, love to dance and all of this stuff, and then they were talking about all that, and again, it had this weird montage thing with Crowley, Hasta, and the other guy all sort of dancing and stuff. And it was like, so, the pertinent question should more be how many demons can dance on the head of a pin.
Yeah, it was so funny.
It was about more to do with it being a question to do with, what's it, like, not philosophy, but like, I can't remember the right term now, but it was like, that's what this was. It was saying that they can, the physical constraints of the universe don't apply to them because of the type of beings they are, which is how they were able to break themselves down from a physical form into information and travel through the phone lines.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what was going on. And then you had that really cool sequence where it was like something out of like Tron or something. It was all like sci-fi-y, where they were going through these like tunnels, these channels, and chasing each other broken up into data. And it was very clever.
That was good. That was really good special effects on that. And then obviously he got through the tape. Then he came back out through the tape machine, didn't he?
Yep.
And Hasta got trapped in it
because it went to the next message.
Well, yeah, because he could hear the angel saying he knows where the Antichrist is. Mm-hmm. It's like, and he's stuck in there, going, ah!
Yeah.
And then they went 20 minutes earlier. we had Michael, etc., speaking to the angel. They were telling him that they came to his shop, didn't they? And they said they were confronting him about his work with Crowley, and he had to choose a side and come with us now to fight. Remember, they was trying to get him to go to heaven, I suppose.
Yeah, and
come on, you gotta go now.
They were basically
Armageddon is starting.
They were basically threatening him, weren't they? They were saying, we know what you've been up to, and if you don't pick the right side, you know what's going to happen, and all this. And he was going, "You're being very bad angels."
Yeah, bad angels. Yeah.
And then just before anything could happen, you heard the trumpet sound, and then they went, "Oh, we have to go," because it was the call to arms. It was like the heavenly trumpets. So they all zoomed off, and then that's when he went in. And he was like, I need to do something about this. And then he set up his, which made sense. Again, this is another thing when watching it. I said to Zoe, you never really see this in things, like in anything. But this made perfect sense. So when you see stuff to do with Satanists and demon summoning and stuff, they always draw like the pentagrams and the summoning circles. So it would stand to reason that there's an angelic equivalent of that.
Mm.
That there would be a way of doing the same thing for heavenly beings, that there would be some kind of summoning ritual. So I thought that was really good. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
And he set up this little summoning circle, didn't he? Well,
before he did that, we had Anatomer and Pulsifier would decide, once they realised it was Adam, they thought, right, we're going to go and find him. And they started leaving the house, and there was a massive storm, and they nearly got blew away.
Yeah.
And they ended up, they had to get back into the cottage. And it said, and then they were under a table, and all the bits of paper were going all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, the prophecy said to get close.
Yeah, it was something about fire, about igniting a different kind of fire or something.
So Rumpy Pumpy ensued.
Because he said about how all the things he'd never done. And then he was like, and I've never, and she went, kissed a girl, and he went, no, I've never done anything like that. And then they kissed and stuff, and they was like, oh, and the next thing they were clothes coming off and stuff. But the effect of all that, of the fire,
Shadwell,
the fire being
Shadwell's pin on the map got pushed itself out and started smoking and obviously on the point of Jasmine Cottage.
Yeah.
And he realised he put him in danger.
He's like, I need to go and help the boy.
The Hua woman said she'd help him with the money to get there.
Yeah.
She goes, I have some money to get to Tadwell. And then he looked round, the pin was actually on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And he went, no, I don't want your money. I know what I'll do. And he decided he was going to go see the angel
at his bookshop.
Yeah, so I've decided I'm going to go see the angel, he said, because Crowley's mafia.
Yeah, he said, I think he's mafia, so I'm going to go and see that Ponzi Southern git instead.
So he headed off to the shop, but meanwhile the angel had shut the shop, put the shutters down, and was going to try and contact heaven.
Yeah.
And he got through to Metatron, is it?
Metatron, the voice of God.
Metatron, who speaks on behalf of God.
Which again is like if you know your in-depth biblical stuff, the whole idea is that the voice, God himself, anybody, if they heard God's actual voice, it would cause your head to explode because of the power. So you have the Metatron, who is the angel that acts as the voice of God. So God basically speaks through the Metatron. So anytime in the Bible where people heard God or where they were led by God's voice or whatever, it was actually the Metatron's voice speaking to them. So he appears, and it was Derek Jacobi.
And he said he was the only one he could talk to, and he was trying to reason with him, and he was going, no, you've got to come with us. Come now, you've got to come with us. And he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go with him, did he? So it's like, no, I don't. I've got to stay here. I need to sort it out. And
the important thing about all this, the most important thing about this conversation was that he was trying to reason and sort of get the word through to God that this must end and stuff. And then he was like, but no, this is like, God is basically behind all of this.
Yeah, again, like everyone else had said, it's like, no, this is what's supposed to happen. It's like, I can't believe this. He was like, couldn't believe that he was hearing it again from even a higher person. Yeah, that this is, and he's like, this is God's plan, Aziraphale. This was always the plan. This was always how this was going to end, that all this was going to happen, and eventually, and again, it's like, realistically, again, if you read the Bible, you go, this is how that's how the story's been designed, the world is created, all this stuff happens, and then eventually it leads to the apocalypse, everybody dies, heaven and hell settle their differences once and for all, and then something else comes after it, but that was always the plan. The plan was never, there is no putting it off, there is no changing it, there is no convincing God this is a bad idea, because this was God's idea from the get-go. Yeah, once it's in action, once it's been started, there's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah.
So he wasn't happy about that. So meanwhile, Shadwell was outside trying to get in the shop, and he picked the lock.
And he'd been looking through the
And
letterbox the whole time.
yeah, the angel was still trying to get hold of Crowley, but obviously he couldn't get hold of him to tell him. And then Shadwell then decides, because of the he thinks that the angel is a demon now.
Because of the summoning circle.
It's the summoning circle. He's trying to stop him standing on it. Going, don't worry, but just don't stand on the circle. Don't stand on the circle. And then the next thing he ended up on it.
And he did all the stuff that he was like going, I need to get my stuff to exercise you. And he went, buy my... And then there was the bell on the desk. And he went, bell! And then he was looking around. It's like, there's a book. There's a bookshop. He got the Agnes Nutter book. And then the lighter was the candle. And he was like, oh, banish you, foul demon, and all this stuff. And he was like, no, you don't understand. You silly man. Stop it. What are you doing? And he backed him up. And then he got in the circle. And then he went, oh, F.
And then he went zooming up into the air. And then the guy got freaked out about it. Did he drop the candle?
Yep.
And run out of the shop. And the next thing it opened up in flames.
Yeah.
And that was how it ended.
So then it's like where's he gone? Like, where has Aziraphale's been summoned back to heaven? How's he going to get back? You know, we didn't see what happened to Crowley after he came out of the phone line. So, we saw him come out of the answer machine and obviously trap Hastra in it, but we don't know what happened to him next. The horsewomen and horsemen haven't turned up in Tadfield yet, but they're on their way.
Yeah, the boys already started to go weird.
Yep, he's creating the world, the ending of the world. It's like all these things going on. It's like, oh my god.
So it's like, ooh.
So exciting. But
yes, very good.
Yes, very, very, very
see in the next weeks. And I've been really good. I haven't done it this time. I haven't gone ahead. So I don't know what happens next week. So
okay, cool.
Until I watch it. But yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, it was awesome. Very, very good episode. So yeah, so on to the final episode now then. So going into space again and all those kind of good things. And this is the 5th episode of Season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's called The Other Thing. And this was the episode that I mentioned previously was directed by the actor Lou Diamond Phillips, which was interesting.
Okay.
I'm going to let you take the lead on this because I feel that I've done quite a lot of talking in this episode. So... you give me your thoughts.
Right, so the beginning was we saw May on the tropical island with Coulson. And it worked out. It turned out she was she'd been drugged by Sarge.
Yep.
And so she was drifting in and out of her dreams, and he had her tied up, and she was in the truck. Snowflake was sent to do a bag and grab because she was the only one he's got now. She's like the other two are being either captured or.
They have been,
they've been captured. They've been captured
by S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah.
Yeah, and so basically he turned around to May and he said he was going to turn her, which I don't know what he meant by that. But I'm going to turn you. Meanwhile, back at the lighthouse, we found out Deke was all right. Mac and Yo-Yo had a heart-to-heart about the events leading up to the thing with Keller.
Yeah.
And what he'd said about that. And then we jumped to the other guys, which Gemma and Daisy's lot. Enoch was feeling sorry for himself because he now feels like, his job's over, and they were trying to make him feel better. Sort of like being a bit, I think it was quite sarcastic because obviously he'd said he was his best friend. He goes, but he was my best friend. And going, yeah, we're all friends. And I don't think they felt the same as they were saying it.
Oh no, of course not. They were trying to get him.
They were just trying to get him
out of his slump in order to get the information they needed to try and find Fitz.
And because he was sort of going on about the best friend thing, and they were going, oh yeah, we're all friends and la-di-da-di. And he was fearing for Fitz's safety. And then the next thing, they got hit by a ship or something.
Yeah, well, they got a ship appeared. They tried to get out of there, but they weren't quick enough. And then they got locked in place, like tractor beam, I assume. And then lots of other ships came out of like a wormhole.
They were all like around them, weren't they?
And it was like, oh no, the Confederacy have caught up with them. The thoughts at the time.
Yeah. Then we get back to Coulson, and he was talking to May. He said he'd been to lots of worlds, but never to one where people know his face. He goes, everyone's acting like they know me.
And I want to know why, and I want to know more about this person. And this was what all of the weird little memory flashes she kept having were really important because initially what seemed like she was having these things because it was just because she was in a drug-induced state, came into play more in terms of comparing the two characters and about how, in some ways, they're almost like mirrors of each other, like light and dark, dream and nightmare. That came up quite a bit. The whole thing about your dreams or I'm your nightmare and all of this kind of thing. And he was obviously wanting to know more about this guy. Who was he? What was he like? And she was obviously very, he was a great man. He was better than you. He was a brave man. This, that, and the other. And he's like, yeah, but ultimately he's dead and I'm not. And then
didn't he say he'd been around for a long time?
Yeah, because she started questioning him. And again, this was very interesting because as much as we got some information and stuff in this episode, and we got some very interesting tie-ins, which we'll touch upon, which I speculated on last podcast, which I was quite vindicated about. But the questions about him and who he is and where he's from, and she was saying, about what the last thing was that he remembered, and it was like, tell me about you, yesterday, last week, a month ago, a year ago, because she was like trying to get to the bottom of like whether or not this guy is somehow really connected to her Coulson.
Yeah.
And it's like, where, how are you a thing? How do you exist? How are you and you are basically Phil Coulson? How is this even possible? And he evaded all the questions. He didn't really answer any of her questions, but he explained the reason they're there. And then you go, wait, so strictly speaking, they're not villains.
No.
Because they're hunters.
Yep.
And they're hunting something called the Shriek.
Yeah, the Shriek.
And that they are that creature that killed Keller, the bat bird thing with the crystalline substance, that they are parasites that go to different worlds and infect them, and that they set about basically extinction level events, like apocalyptic events, on behalf of their creator, and that then a plague comes and destroys the worlds. And their job is to try and get there first and try and prevent these things from happening. So they jump from world to world trying to stop these things. And he said about the fact that he's lived 2 lifetimes, did he say?
Yeah.
Because he's lived on planets the time on that planet has passed by like the speed of light. And he said, I've lived for 100 years and I'll live for another 100 way beyond you. And all of this, he was saying all this weird cryptic stuff. So you go, well, okay, this is very intriguing stuff here. And also this thing about this plague that comes, and what we had said previously about they're not the ones that are causing this, because
they're the ones, the clean-up crew, aren't they?
Yeah, and as you pointed out last week, I think it was, you pointed out in that video bit how they looked like they were trying to run away from this thing. They were trying to escape. They weren't the cause of it. They were trying to get away from it. And that's further cemented in this episode where he said, eventually this thing comes and it destroys everything. And their job is to try and get in there and stop it before that happens.
Yeah. Nip it in the bud before it gets to the point, of no return. Sort of thing. Yeah. Well, he told all that stuff, but before he acted on that, we had Daisy and co. were trapped, obviously, because of this thing surrounded them. And Enoch didn't think they would kill them. He said, "Oh no, I'm sure. I think it's because didn't he say he thought it was his?"
He didn't say who it was. He said, "I don't think it's the Confederacy.
I don't think they're going to. Yeah, I don't think they're going to kill us." And then he opens the door, didn't he? Because they say, "No, don't open the door. Open the door." And it was somebody called Atara, who was known to him, and she was a no gender chronicon.
And she was like his superior.
And he was to be judged for tampering with the universe.
And, for messing with time and all of this stuff. And, again, that was all really interesting because they were questioning, like, when they were being led through the ship, that this is a Confederacy ship. It was a Confederacy ship. We took it from them. And it's like,
because their planet was destroyed, so they took hold of all the Confederatory ships, or whatever they're called.
And what was interesting was this was the tie-in that I talked about, because they said that their planet was destroyed by a mysterious plague that came and just sort of dismantled everything until there was nothing left. And it's like, that sounds very familiar. Where have we seen or heard of that before? And then you go, this thing that Sarge and his crew are dealing with is connected to this.
To what happened to their planet, yeah.
But it was also the fact she said that prior to it happening, they'd started registering all these anomalies. And he said, what kind of anomalies? And she said, we're not entirely sure yet. So there's still some mystery as to like what these anomalies are and how they herald the beginning of this plague coming. But it seems somehow, or at least in their minds, it somehow seems to be connected to the whole time travel thing. And because of the whole time travel thing, that's basically why they want them. Because they want...
Yeah, they wanted them to go back in time to change what had happened.
And save their planet.
But they don't know how they did it, because they said it was a fluke. That when they did the time travel, they go, well, we don't know how it happened. And then they showed so there was Fitz and that bounty hunter guy. Mm-hmm. They weren't there, were they? It was a hologram. He was obviously in a cell somewhere. They said if they don't help, they were going to kill him. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, no. So then we go back to Coulson, because obviously he'd been interrogating May and told her about the strike thing. Yeah. And then put her in a room. She was somewhere else, and she had to kill this thing. It was like initiation, wasn't it? Yeah,
because they brought the guy in, and that was the guy that Snowflake had been out to bag. And
so that was the bag and tag thing. So he got him.
He said, she said, I'm not going to kill him. And he said, well, you're not going to have much choice. And then he shot the guy in the head.
Yeah. And then they left a knife.
Yeah. And it was one of those knives like we've seen before.
We'd seen it that was inside the other alien. Mm-hmm. So he left her to fight it, basically. So she was fighting it, really. She was trying to just fight it.
Because she didn't know what was going on to begin with, because obviously she's thinking...
Once he shot it, it came back to life. So she was just doing all her cool May moves. Yeah. And then he turned into one of those spiky things.
Yeah. And luckily, she did a really cool flip thing over him.
That was cool, wasn't it?
And then stabbed the knife down through the creature, and then it stopped it all from happening. And then they came in, and they applauded her and said, see, we knew you could do it. And Snowflake was all like, oh, can we keep her? I like this one, and all this stuff. And it's very weird. She's so strange, that girl.
Very strange. Mm. And also, in the meantime, the professor at the lighthouse is also working out that knife is important, that type of knife. Because basically, when they stabbed it into that guy and left it in there, that creature that came out, because they pulled the knife out, the thing that was obviously the danger, they'd released it, hadn't they? The danger thing. Yeah, that's why the knife sort of kept it in place.
The knife hadn't been in for long enough to sort of kill the creature off.
Yeah.
And then he was doing research, and he was like asking them questions about various things, and he was on about analysing the like crystal substances that came out of the person when this thing like exploded.
Yeah.
And there was something familiar about the structures, but he wasn't quite sure, and so he had to do some further research. Mm. And then didn't it not then cut back to space?
Back to the ship, yeah.
And they were trying to
get them to let Fitz go, wasn't he?
Yeah. And they were explaining that they didn't understand the whole time travel. That they didn't know how they'd done it, because they said that they explained about the monoliths. And then this was a cool thing. Anybody that knows the bigger Marvel universe and the films and stuff, especially like when me and Zoe heard it, we went, ooh, because they started, the first time that I can recall they've ever done this in S.H.I.E.L.D., they started naming the monoliths, and they said, there's a space one, there's a time one, there's a reality one, and it was like, hold on a second, this is very like the Infinity Stones, which are in the Marvel movies, and it's like, these monoliths have the same kind of properties as the Infinity Stones. Interesting. Interesting weird little connection there. And they said about the machine they'd found, and the machine is what had allowed them to come home and stuff, but they didn't know anything about the machine or how it got there. And then they talked about Fitz, and about Fitz designing stuff, but he hasn't designed it yet. Like, where they are in the timeline, he hasn't come up with this technology. He hasn't learned how to do this yet, so he can't help you because he doesn't know it. You know, like, it's happened, we've experienced it because we were in the future, but this version of Fitz hasn't got to that point in his timeline yet where he can invent this stuff, so he can't help you.
No.
So they were basically like, well, we need to make you, we need to give you an incentive then, don't we?
Yeah, and it was Enoch that suggested.
Yeah.
About Gemma, and he said, if you put Gemma in danger, he will make it. He will help them.
Yeah.
And she was going, I just want to kill, she just wanted to kill everyone, didn't she? She didn't care. It's like, no, but and that's what they decided to do.
Yeah. So they said that basically the rest of them would be allowed to leave, and that they would they would basically have Simmons and use her as a way of helping motivate Fitz to help them. And they couldn't believe that Enoch had done that. They're like, you've betrayed us and stuff. And then you had a really tearful goodbye, didn't you, where she accepted it.
Gemma just said, I have to do it. It's the only way around it. I know if he knows I'm in danger, he'll help.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do in Daisy, and that was really sad.
Mm-hmm.
So she went with them. And then we went back to May, didn't we? She was trying to cause trouble between Snowflake and Coulson, wasn't she?
Yes, she was trying to get inside her head, wasn't she?
Yeah. And then she got free, didn't she? And she started strangling Sarge.
Yeah.
There was that massive fight.
And then
always a good fight in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, they're like in the front of the truck, while the truck's driving along, and she's fighting him, and he's battering her, and she's hitting him back and stuff. And I kept thinking, oh, if she keeps hitting him, maybe it's going to trigger a memory or something. Maybe he's going to realise who he is or something, but none of that came. But what was interesting was he said something, and then she got a flash of her, like our Coulson, the real Coulson.
Yeah, near the end, wasn't it?
And he said exactly the same thing.
The same. Yeah, exactly the same thing he said.
And she was like, what did you just say? And then he refused to repeat what he said, and he said something else.
So she knocked him out, didn't she?
Yeah. And then
she's got the truck now.
She took control of the truck, so obviously she's going to now take them back to the lighthouse.
Yeah, and we finally saw Coulson's last minutes, because that's when he said it.
Yep.
He saw it, whatever he said that just before he died, basically.
And then you saw his hand went, and she moved his hand and put it on like his knee. And then you saw that in the real time.
In the truck, and she did the same thing to him, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. So meanwhile, back at the lighthouse, Professor and Yo-Yo were talking about it all, the Mac, and they're working out the ley lines are something to do with it.
Yeah.
And the professor's decided he needs to go where S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first monolith was found.
Because...
And then to North America, Inca's connection.
Yeah, because the reason being is because after he'd been researching the crystals, he discovered they're made of the same stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, so the creatures and what they produce is tied into these monoliths. They're all connected. So he's like, I need to go to the sites that you found them all. And then he said about South America, and he said this name.
North America.
No, South America, not North America. South America, for the Incan, like somewhere in like the rainforest or something.
Yeah.
And he said this name, and I can't remember for the life of me now. I wish I'd wrote it down. Something Cottle. But basically, I didn't know. I was like, ooh. And then Zoe pipes up next to me and says, the one that shakes the earth. And I went, what? And she said, that's what it means. She said, basically, in the ancient like South American tribes, this was like a god that shook the earth. And I said, how do you know that? And she went, horrible histories. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But yeah, so that, whatever this being is, this creator who made these parasite things and is sending out this plague to destroy planets and somehow has this tie-in with the monoliths, the name translates as the one who shakes the earth. So it's like, ooh, who or what is this being?
I know. And then they got a signal from Daisy. So Daisy and the guys came home and explained what happened regarding Gemma. And then May, she's bringing Sarge in.
And Daisy's face was like, who? And it's like, oh yeah, because she doesn't know anything about this.
She doesn't know anything about any of this, does she? It's like, oh.
And that's going to be interesting, given her relationship with Coulson and how Coulson was like a kind of surrogate father figure to her.
And Mac.
Yeah.
Face to face with him properly, because he hasn't really seen him, has he?
No, but I mean, even more so for Daisy, because obviously since the very first season, he's been the one that took her under his wing and stuff. So it's like, how's she going to react to seeing this guy who's wearing the face of a guy that she loved as a father, and it's not him?
That's going to be interesting. Yeah. And then it ended. Well, I think there must be another ending, because I'm going to just...
No, there wasn't. I've looked it up and I've looked it up and I've looked it up. This was the ending. It did say they
would return in a minute.
Yes.
That's all right then, because I looked everywhere and I thought, I can't see another one with any longer.
I did the same.
So basically the bit which would have been the ending was Enoch went to see Fitz and told him about Gemma.
Yeah.
And he's got to develop the time travel, and Gemma could be his motivation. And now his Fitz is angry as hell.
Yeah, because he realised that how would they know? And then it dawned on him, the penny dropped, and he went, you. And he was like, it was the only way. But then what was cute in a way about that was that he did it to save Fitz's life. Like, it was the only way to save you. It was the only way to stop them from killing you, was to do this.
Yeah.
But then he...
What did he do to him?
Gassed him.
Yeah.
So what was that all about?
Don't know.
That was so confusing, because it was like he revealed that what happened, he revealed it was him, he revealed the reason he did it was to save Fitz's life, but then he triggered some kind of gas which then knocked out Fitz.
Yeah.
And that was
Maybe
how
he's
it
got
ended.
another plan then. Maybe he's got another plan up his sleeve.
Maybe.
Hopefully he's on the good side, not the bad side.
Oh, one other little thing we didn't mention. There was a little innuendo moment, which was quite funny, because, you know, the little humour bits they drop in from time to time. There was a little humorous bit exchange between that, what did you say her name was? Atara?
Yeah.
Not Atari, not like the computer system.
Atara. Atara.
Atara and Enoch, the implication was that they were a item at some point, because she let him put his memory stick into her hard drive. Or her data port or something, and it was like, oh, okay, that was a really weird robot sex reference.
And now she's no gender. Now she's no gender.
Yeah.
What did he do to her?
It was like, that was a bit weird.
Yes.
I had to mention that.
They throw those little ones in though, don't they? Sort of tongue in cheek. Can you not? Do you pick up on that one?
Yeah.
Is there innuendo there?
But there was so much information in that episode now about knowing the not the motivation, the motive, I suppose, like what they're there for, of Coulson, Sarge, and his team.
We sort of worked out the other day, didn't we? We said maybe they're there just to. They're not the behind. They're not the big cheese. They're the cleanup crew, basically, and that's what they're saying they are.
But they're not. They're not even the cleanup crew. They're the preventative. They're trying to stop this.
They prevent it, and then somebody else comes and cleans it up, I suppose, or don't.
No. Nobody cleans it. No, they're trying to stop any of it happening in the first place. So they go to a planet to try and stop these Shrike parasites, and if they don't get them all in time, that's when this weird plague thing comes and destroys the planet. Yeah. So they are working, because he then said his plan is to try and be in a position so that when the creator comes, he can kill him.
But didn't she bring up the fact, why was he after Deke?
Because he said he doesn't belong here, but he's not the same as the others. Here. He's not the same as the others, but he doesn't belong. No, that's because he's out of time. He's from a timeline that doesn't exist anymore. So he's an anomaly. And you never know, it could prove to be more important.
That could affect everything, couldn't it? So he had to go too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Well, yeah, because everything's been on about messing with the timeline.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this woman wants to go back in time, but they're saying that because they reckon that they've caused it, basically. Yeah. They potentially could have caused all of it. Mm-hmm. From them messing about with time. Yeah. So the other people, the Chronicons are thinking if they go back in time to get to the point, they can prevent any of this happening. Yeah. So it's like, oh.
It's a very, very, very good episode. Lots of information.
Always good.
Lots of tying things together. You know, lots of theories that we'd had being, confirmed. And now it's just like, I want to know now who's behind all this. Who is the creator of these things? And
yeah, considering it's only 4 episodes in.
5
episodes in. It usually goes on for 20 odd episodes, doesn't it?
No, this time doesn't. This is a shortened season. Shorter. This is only 12 episodes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because they're finding out a lot of stuff quite early. That's what I was thinking. We've got a lot of time to find out the rest of it. Possibly not. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, a shortened season. And the next one, season 7, is also going to be a shortened season as well, apparently. But
it's been renewed then?
Yeah. It got renewed for a 7th season before this one even came on.
All right.
So that was interesting. But yeah, so
it's not just tying up the series. That's why they're doing all these short ones.
Well, I think it keeps the story a bit more concise, though, doesn't it? It's like, we're moving forward without too much in the way of filler and stuff, which is good.
Yeah, true. It's just more to the point, isn't it? On the money sort of each week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So now it'll be on again. So I'll have to look for it and start watching again.
Yes, it all begins again.
All begins again. Yay!
So there we go, folks. So that's everything for this week. So we have covered all the shows that we said we would. So we will end it there. and we will look forward to seeing you again on the next podcast. So don't forget, leave a like, hit that thumbs up button and show us that you appreciate what we do. Leave comments down below, give us your thoughts on all these programs and your theories and your take on various things. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, so that I can continue growing my numbers and do bigger and better things. And check out the description box for the link to my Twitter, so you can come and follow and chat to me on there and keep the conversation going. And also my donation mediums, so that you can help us to do more in the future. And it would be, couldn't speak then. I would be I'd be very, very appreciated. That's the words, thank you. You think I'd get better at doing that by now?
You should know that off by hand.
Yeah.
You should just have a recording of you saying that.
I know, and just play it in at the end. But yeah, so that's it, guys. We're done. So all there really is left to say is thank you very much once again, Mum. Thank you for joining me.
It's fine. It's been brilliant.
And we will catch you all next time. So you all take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye, 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 bye.